Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to GardenFork Radio. My name is Eric. I'm your host. This is an eclectic DIY podcast. I also have a YouTube channel, also called GardenFork. Today, we're going to talk about getting unstuck on a project, some Amazon shopping alternatives, and the weather with my good friend Rick. Hey, sir.
Good morning. How are you, my friend?
We are good.
Terrific.
The internet works today, so that's on the plus side, right?
Yeah, well, parts of it work. We had trouble getting your new Squadcast to work right my equipment, but I'm sure it's something I was doing. This is a pretty nifty system you've got going here.
I can send anyone just a link, and it opens up a web browser, and you just configure are you using earbuds or a microphone? We turn the video off because it takes up a lot of bandwidth, and actually a lot of guests really don't like the video, which is fine with me. And
Really?
And it records locally, so your half of the conversation is being recorded to your computer right now, Rick, and it caches it in your computer, and then when we're done talking, it uploads it to the cloud, and I can pull it down, and I put it all together, and we make a podcast.
And you get better audio.
Right. Because
Wow.
recording audio locally is so much better.
Yeah, no kidding. Just out of curiosity, what does something like this cost?
It's about $250 a year.
Well, that's, for somebody that makes a lot of podcasts, that's almost nothing. Sound quality is everything. I have listened to a lot of podcasts that had terrific content, but abysmal production standards, and my tastes have just gotten so high that they're not saying anything that I'll sit through their crappy production for, So I'm always happy to see new things and hear great podcasts.
I'm curious about, I drive a 12-year-old car.
Yeah.
And it has a Bose speakers in it, and it has it's an aftermarket Pioneer or something radio thing, and I plug the iPhone into it, so I listen to podcasts, and a lot of them, the music interstitials are so much louder than the people that talk. So they'll have a little interlude and they move on to the next subject or whatever, or like I'll ask you to sign up for become a patron, but the audio levels are just way up and down, and I think a lot of people don't listen to their podcast in the cheapest mode possible, which is probably in a 12-year-old car. I guess in the headphones, maybe with your headphones, and balances all out and it sounds wonderful. I mean, I have $50 headphones, and you just have to be careful because you should just listen to it. If you're making a podcast or a video, watch it or listen to it on the cheapest device out there. And that's your baseline.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, they will pre-record their, if they have an endorsement or something they need to do a little ad for.
Yes.
They'll pre-record them and they don't pay attention to the levels in between. And they just stick it in there and they think they're good for the day. And it turns out it's a lot louder or a lot more quiet. And of course, lately I've been hearing, and I really object to them, are the just canned ads, the regular commercial ads that you'd hear
Right.
on the radio in my podcast. I find those very jarring and off-putting.
When you are listening to a lot of podcasts and you hear that, it's called a dynamically inserted ad. So those are pre-recorded by somebody else, and the levels that you edit your podcast to might be different than the levels that the people that made the ad set their audio to, and it can be very jarring. It's like NPR can drive you crazy sometimes, but they have incredibly good sound because they level everything out. They edit to a certain audio level, everything, their promotions, their interviews, their on the road kind of things.
Yeah.
And in the podcast world, that doesn't happen, unfortunately.
I've noticed, I listen to the NPR top of the hour news 2 or 3 times a day on podcast. And one of the things I've noticed is you can tell before the person says a word, that it's the NPR podcast. Just the quality of the silence and that little just before they start speaking. It's almost like a cue that's NPR. You hear that intake of breath just before they say, "This is Nora Rum with NPR News," or whatever.
Wow. I don't listen to NPR. It's too depressing. So,
well, I listen to the top of the hour just to know what's going on. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Most of them are terribly depressing, but I am hopeful myself. I think things are not as bad as people think. Are you a fan of The Expanse? Either
I don't know what that is.
The books or the TV show. Fella, actually, it's two guys. They write under the last name Corey, and it's a space thing. And Adam Savage, Mythbusters, he loved it so much. He was so thrilled by it. He got himself a guest walk-on appearance in one of the episodes, just as a crewman. And I don't think he had any lines, or if they were anything, it was just a brief blurb. But it's a wonderful program. But one of the things that they talk about through the length of this show is the churn. And, when the churn is coming, and they don't quite define it, but you just get a sense, what it is. You float to the top, or you fall to the float to the top, or you fall to the bottom. And it really doesn't mean anything. Tribes get smaller during the churn, and then they'll get bigger as the churn subsides. And it's almost like a force of nature just comes through your life, and everything hits the churn, and all you can do is hold on. And I kind of like that philosophy lately.
I do like Gary Vaynerchuk on Instagram and YouTube. He's very uplifting. He's like, fight the negativity by posting positivity.
Right.
To summarize it in 4 words. He's like, we have to fight against all this negativity that the algorithms favor by posting a ton of positivity. And I've been as I've talked about, I'm dialing back my social media, but that made me rethink that. So I'm still thinking about it.
I do a lot of social media, but I try to keep it on Nextdoor.
Yes, you talked about that. Yeah. You like Nextdoor.
And I'm actually becoming, I fancy myself, just a bit of an influencer. And it's more of a moderating influence, not far left, not far right, just something kind of down the middle. And say, that's not really true, is it? And, throw in some statistics or something. Because and it's really I'm beginning to get a little bit of a following where people are, sending little plus signs or hearts or something to my post, and the center is beginning to hold a little bit in the local Virginia Beach next door. Now, as the next election approaches, who knows what's going to happen, but by just being there and not getting into fights with people. My favorite line on any social media is, "I believe we understand each other's positions. Feel free to have the last word. I will not respond again to this thread."
Yeah.
And then mean it. Mean it. No matter what they say, do not rise to the bait. You're not a fish. Don't do that. And just leave it at that and walk away from the conversation. And they can say whatever they want. They get it out of their system. But you got your point, and people that are watching know that you made your point. And so just let it go. Move on to the next thing. Go do something that's interesting. Fooling with social media, in the end, is not very interesting.
I did do an interesting thing this weekend. I got a project done that I've been staring at for 2 years.
All my projects are like that. What kind of project was it?
I've been hoarding scrap wood for my maple syrup evaporator, because that's mainly what I burn to boil sap.
Yeah.
and I have a shed behind my house. I mean, I have 3 sheds behind my house, but this one I've been throwing scrap wood in and just kind of shutting the door. And there's also a bunch of other junk in there. And I kept on thinking, well, I'm just going to pull all the stuff out, cut up all the scrap wood into 13-inch long lengths, because that's the size the firebox needs. And I never got to it. And I finally texted 2 of my friends and said, would you come over Saturday morning? I'll have 2 chop saws out and we can cut up all this wood. I'll just feed you wood and you cut wood. And in less than an hour, he had all the scrap wood cut up. And I got all the junk out of my shed, and I can actually use my shed again.
And so Tom Sawyer lives. Yeah, come paint this fence for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've helped them with projects. And I thought if you actually set a date and time and involve 1 or 2 other people, there's an accountability there. You have to show up and start the ball rolling. Like I have 2 chop saws of varying degree of quality, but it's good enough to cut scrap wood. And I ran 2 different extension cords out of the house because you don't want to have both those on one outlet. And I had to have everything ready. And then they showed up and I just fed them both wood and we cut 13-inch long lengths. And I've got it all stacked away now. I can actually pull my garden trailer into that shed. It's just so nice. And I just had to make an appointment with friends, and that's how I got it started and done.
Wow. Aren't you great? The nice thing about using chop saws like that is nobody can talk to each other,
Right.
I really hate it when people come over and they just want to keep up a constant flow of conversation while you're working. I'm not that kind of person. I like to think about what I'm thinking about and pay attention. And but yeah, when you have a saw running, they can't be yammering all the time.
I just keep a neighbor showed up the other day while I was working on something. I just kept working, and I talked to him a little bit, but I'm like, I got to get this done.
Yeah,
because tomorrow morning I gotta be at work tomorrow morning. So I put new gaskets on the bottom of my garage doors, because the gap at the bottom of the garage doors was big enough that the oak leaves would blow under the doors. And so I was constantly having to sweep my garage. And I'm like, if I just put a new gasket on there, I wouldn't have to do this every other day.
Oak leaves are pretty big. How big is the gap at the bottom of your door?
It's like a 3/4 of an inch.
Oh, that's not very big. Well,
it's big enough for oak leaves to get under it. Yeah. So I went down the True Value and got new gasket, because the ones that they'd basically fallen off. They were so worn out. It's just rubber. So
sure. Is your garage door insulated? We've been having that discussion around here, whether you should get an insulated garage door or not.
My garage is literally a pole barn with a tin roof, and it's not heatable. I have a propane torpedo heater and I have a kerosene torpedo heater that I use in there, but literally that heater is pointed at me to stay warm.
Well, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Our garage, I didn't think about insulating it until we put on the insulated siding on the outside of the garage around the house. And I said, well, maybe it can't hurt to go ahead and, I blew some insulation into the ceiling above the garage, what hadn't been done. And went ahead and got some, when we replaced our doors, got the insulated ones. I'm not sure it makes a lot of difference, but it does help some. I can usually keep my spring starts beginning in late February, March, and get them to go without too much heat. Just a 2-bulb lamp. That'll do it for me.
Oh, perfect. So let's just open up the GardenFork Patreon app and see what is in here. Oh, first thing here are some pictures of Andy and Spike on the stoop I took this morning. And then over the weekend, I posted pictures of the finished canoe. Yes, it is done. It is, I won't say whether it's water-worthy or not. I'll save that for the video. But this is the kind of thing that I share with patrons that I don't, less and less, I don't post to Instagram and Facebook because, it's a loaded thing, those guys. So I just thought if you were interested in supporting the show, supporting the videos and the podcast, if you were thinking about $5 a month, it's like a fancy cup of coffee a month for the behind the scenes stuff. Sometimes I post every day for a week. If I'm not really working on anything, I don't always post pictures. And you have this kind of like mainline direct thing to me because you can message me in the app. You also get a custom email address, my private email address to reach out to me as well. So you want to think about that? That'd be cool. If you don't have the money, do not give me money, okay? I have a roof over my head. I have food in the refrigerator, all right? But if you do have enough for a fancy cup of coffee, maybe thinking about supporting GardenFork. The links to that are in the show notes here. You can also go to Patreon. It's patreon.com/GardenFork. All right, thank you. So another thing I had on the list here was alternatives to shopping on Amazon, even though I do have a store on Amazon, which I'll link to here in the show notes. But if you don't want to shop on Amazon, then I completely understand that. I actually don't always need everything like overnight. I don't need it. I can have stuff in New York. You can have stuff delivered the same day. And I don't like that we're shopping so much with one company. The camera operator needed a backup charger for her laptop because sometimes she brings the laptop between home and work, and a couple times she's accidentally left the charger at work and is already walking to the subway, and I'm like, let me get you 2 extra chargers, one for your office, one for home. And I looked online and the ones from Apple are like $65 or something.
Right.
And instead of going to Amazon saying, I'll just order something on Amazon, I went to eBay.
Ah.
And eBay have, I don't know if they're reboxed or factory returns or factory service, but they're Apple branded laptop chargers. And they were $16 a piece.
Oh, wow.
With 2-day shipping.
You know, I like the idea of eBay, but I find eBay terribly confusing to navigate and find things on.
It can be a little clunky.
Yeah, it's clunky. I have to admit, I'm addicted to Amazon. If I need something, well, I told a story a couple of times ago, a couple of podcasts ago, that I needed an umbrella stand, one of those kind you fill with water to hold the umbrella down. And I spent all day going to the blue store, the orange store, the Navy Exchange. I stopped at a True Value. I couldn't find one for, it was early in the spring. And I ordered it from Amazon. It showed up the next day. And it was a good price. And I thought, well, teach me to go shopping locally. But I try to do as much shopping locally as we can. Most of my shopping consists of grocery store shopping, I think, anymore. But and I'm not about to order things online for the house for food. I'm particular about that.
Yeah, you can actually shop online through True Value and have it delivered to the True Value or have it delivered to your house. And actually, someone that's becoming very competitive with Amazon online is Walmart, and that may sound kind of like hypocrisy that Walmart is the underdog against Amazon, but online they are.
That's true.
And again, you can order it and pick it up at the Walmart or have it shipped to you. And I actually wanted some new digital indoor-outdoor thermometers, and the ones I really liked I found actually on Walmart, and they got shipped in 2 days, and now we know how We know how warm it is outside. That's having to step outside.
Yeah. Oh, it's boy, it's 70 degrees here all of a sudden. I think we're due another front to push through. Our condolences, by the way, to all the folks who got whacked down in Kentucky and Missouri and all those places that got hit pretty hard last week, and then just the last day or two up on the high plains, North Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, they've had a lot of wind and problems. Times they are a changing.
Yeah, there was an article in the Times, and they said they can't really pin the upturn in clusters of tornadoes, and also those clusters have moved farther east,
Right,
and slightly south. So basically, the Missouri, Illinois area is more prone to them now than they were in past history, and they're trying to the expert scientists are trying to figure out if that's tied to the climate crisis or not. But it's certainly a change. But I was thinking about everyone goes in their basement or in a central room. If you could, in a DIY way, beef up your bathroom or a section of your basement with steel columns and some I-beams across the top, and almost build yourself a shelter within the basement, or make the bathroom into a strengthened shelter,
right, yeah. Something to consider. There are companies that even make tiny little standalone shelters that are tied together with rebar and bound to the ground, that sit outside your house. And I mean, they're just tiny. You can get like 5 people in it and a dog maybe, and close the door, and it's enough to protect you from most storms. Maybe not every storm.
Right.
There's a company that will chip up your driveway or your garage floor and sink a small box into the garage floor, into the cement, and it has kind of a roll top, pull top cover for it,
like a rolling gate across the store.
Yeah, and except like that, and you worry a little bit about getting stuck in there if the garage collapses on you, but normally you park your car on top of it, and all you have to do is back the car out and get it down into that little storm shelter. Any protection is better than no protection, though. That's for sure. Boy, they sure found that out down in Kentucky. I don't think I've ever seen a storm path that long or that wicked. I mean, just everything is flattened.
Yeah, and there is very little a warning time for that kind of thing.
Well, yes and no. They put out several days beforehand that the Severe Prediction Center, Storm Prediction Center, SPC, started predicting that a big storm was likely to happen. And so people, of course, the same thing happened when Germany had their big floods last spring. It had been predicted for several days, but nobody paid much attention to it. That's, we get so many warnings now. There is so much information that it loses its power to move you into action.
Right. You just need the freight train sound coming bearing down on you, and that's your warning.
But, here at GardenFork, we're all about doing it yourself, and we've talked many times in the past about being prepared to do for yourself and your family for 24 to 48 hours, maybe a little longer. Enough food, enough water, some shelter. This time of year, you need to think about heat. When storms are prevalent in the area, we have our long jeans on, not shorts. I have some. I've just ordered them. I'm going to see what they're like. I did have some heavy-duty work boots that had a steel shank and a steel toe.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming a shoe. It's really just a tennis shoe kind of thing with a carbon fiber shank and a carbon fiber hood over the toe. And so
Wow.
you can walk on nails and things can fall on your toe and your foot won't get crushed, that kind of thing. But you need to be prepared. Long sleeve shirts. Be prepared to dig yourself out and survive for a little while with that before the cavalry arrives.
Yeah, it'll be a while. So
Yeah.
I did not know about the carbon fiber sneakers. That's good because I wear athletic shoes or sneakers, whatever we want to call them, more often than not. So
Right. Yeah, I was trying to think, what do you call them? You don't call them tennis shoes, athletic shoes, runners, whatever they are. They're making them as a work style now, and
huh.
they're lightweight. They dry out pretty good, and they still give you the protection of a work boot, except for the ankle area. Uh, if you fall or slip onto something, you're not going to get the ankle support you'd normally get.
I didn't think about that, but I have. I have been working, and all of a sudden, I do snap out a nail, and I'm like, oh wow, that almost like I almost needed a tetanus shot there.
Yeah. When storms happen, there's just litter everywhere, and so some leather gloves for everybody. Maybe even a hard hat. That might be a little much, but something. But you need to be prepared and take care of yourself.
I have a hard hat with ear protection and a screen for when I'm cutting with one of my chainsaws.
I see
And
that. That is so cool.
you should actually have eye protection on underneath the screen because you can get chips that bounce and hit your cheek under the screen. But I actually wore that while we were cutting with the chop saws. It's my go-to piece of equipment now. It's kind of
Well,
funny.
well, you need to protect your hearing for sure. Mine has just about gone to pot.
Yeah.
But one of the neat things that's happened, hearing aids are $3, $4, $5,000 a set, and I have been needing hearing aids for a while. But I've started to use my Apple AirPod Pro.
Right. We talked about this.
Did we talk about it? Okay.
Yeah, but
And
I've told a couple friends about that.
Yeah, and it works out like a champ. Last night we went out with our little dining group, and we went to a really noisy restaurant. And I popped in my earpods, and you could tune them a little bit, and I could keep up the conversation at the table, even though the whole building roared. And it even has the new feature with the latest iOS update that allows it listens where your head is pointing. And so if you're listening to a particular person speak, it actually amplifies from that direction.
Wow.
And so for $300, I think about what the AirPods cost, you need the Pro version. But you tune it with iOS on your phone, and then it sends it to the chip in your AirPod, and it will help you navigate a very noisy world.
That's amazing.
Yeah, life is actually amazing. I mean, we get down and we despair about the quality of life and things going on, but life actually is extremely amazing right now.
What's extremely amazing is we have a new review on our iTunes page.
Well, I've got to hear this.
It says, great content, 5 stars by Heather Bow. An interesting range of topics and engaging guests makes Eric's podcast both highly entertaining and informative.
Oh, wow. Send her a dog.
I've got 2 here right next to me. They're chewing on their marrow bones right now.
I have enjoyed so much seeing the dogs grow up. On the Patreon, all the extra pictures and everything. It just does my heart good. And I'm sure at heart, Heather is a dog lover as well. And she just loves seeing all that going on.
Yay. Well, speaking of Patreon, Rick and I are going to stick around here for a minute to do the after show for the patrons. But I would like to hear from you all about how you overcome project stuckness and how you prepare for weather issues. I guess we call it weather incidents, events. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. That's radio@gardenfork.tv. Do you have any more? No, you're going to hold all your thoughts, Rick, for the after show. Okay, I'm not going to ask you any more questions.
I only have the thought. But
Yeah.
I will hold forth in the after show.
Oh, well, thanks, everyone. Thank you very much for the reviews on the iTunes thing.
Thank you, Heather.
If you're using the Apple Podcast app, you can now write a review right from the podcast app. So that's cool.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Go out and do cool stuff and make it a great day. Thank you so much for listening.
Talk to you later, my friend. Bye-bye.
GardenFork Radio is produced by GardenFork Media, LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our producer is Sean O'Neill. If you need an amazing podcast producer, visit Sean's site, SeanInBrooklyn.com. That's Sean, SEAN, in Brooklyn.com. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information on Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.